I came home unannounced to surprise my mother on her birthday. Instead, I found her on the kitchen floor with a bruised face, while my father was on a yacht with a girl young enough to be my sister. That's the scene I never imagined when I drove 12 hours from Norfolk Naval Base to Miami. The metallic smell of dried blood mixed with cold coffee in the air. The kitchen window rattled in the wind, like mocking applause from fate itself. I'm Lieutenant Jessica Morales, 28 years old, US Navy. Just finished 18 months deployed in the Mediterranean. In my head, I'd rehearsed the homecoming scene 1,000 times. Mum would cry, brew the world's best Cuban coffee, tell me all the neighborhood stories I'd missed. Dad would be... Well, Dad was never home when I returned anyway. But I never imagined this. Mum lay beside the refrigerator, her shirt torn at the shoulder, dried blood at the corner of her mouth. I dropped to my knees, my heart hammering like combat drums.
Her skin felt cold under my hands. Not weather cold, but shock cold.
Mum, what happened? She opened her eyes slowly, like someone waking from a nightmare. Jess, you shouldn't be here. Her voice was hoarse, thick, swollen tongue. I checked the bruise on her neck, handprint shaped, the size of a man's grip. Heat flashed up my spine, blood rushing to my temples. 18 months of combat medic training kicked in automatically. Check pupils, pulse, signs of head trauma. Who did this to you? Mum shook her head, tears leaking from the corners of her eyes. Don't ask. You just got home. Don't make trouble. But I already knew. Only one man in this house. And the handprint on Mum's neck matched perfectly with the hands that had refused to shake mine when I received the Purple Heart. Mum's phone lay forgotten on the counter, screen cracked but still glowing. I swiped it open. Dad's Instagram, posted 3 hours ago. Robert Morales on a pristine white yacht, arms around a blonde woman in a bikini. Caption: Living the dream with my angel. The woman looked maybe 26, 27, my age, while Mum lay bleeding on the cold kitchen floor. I felt the world tilt 45 degrees, temples throbbing, tongue tasting copper, bitter as old pennies. This wasn't anger. This was something deeper and colder, like ice spearing through my chest. 18 months I'd fought Somali pirates, saved 23 sailors, earned the Navy Cross for valor. While at home, the man I called father was beating the woman who raised me, then partying on a $2 million yacht with his mistress. Mum, did you know about this woman? Mum's sharp intake of breath was answer enough. I scrolled through Dad's Instagram. 6 months of sweet photos with Amber Collins, marketing executive. Fancy restaurants, diamond jewelry, Bahamas vacations, each photo worth $5,000 to $10,000. Quick calculation, at least $200,000 in 6 months, while Mum had to ask Dad for grocery money. Scrolling down, I found Amber's comment under a photo. Your wife is so lucky to have a successful man like you. Too bad she doesn't appreciate it. Lucky. Appreciate. I looked at Mum trying to sit up, hands shaking as she covered her bruises. Mum, how long? Jess, don't. How long, Mum? 2 years. Her voice barely a whisper. Since your first deployment. 2 years. While I was overseas, saving other people's lives, Dad was beating my mother and playing around with young women. I remembered all those video calls home. Mum always wore heavy makeup, camera angled to hide her neck and shoulders. I'm fine, honey, don't worry. I thought she just wanted to look pretty for her daughter. Turns out she was hiding injuries. I remembered asking, "Where's Dad?" Mum always answered, "He's in an important meeting." Meeting with his 26-year-old marketing executive. I stood up, knees weak as cotton. Military training automatically kicked in. Assess threat, evaluate options, plan response. But this wasn't the battlefields of Afghanistan. This was home. The place I'd thought was the safest in the world. The place I was wrong about. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Text from Dad. Jessica home yet? Tell her I'm in important business meeting. Will be home late. Business meeting. On a yacht. With Amber Collins. I screenshot the message, then screenshot the Instagram photos. Evidence. In the military, I learned one thing. Truth needs documentation. Mum, we're going to the hospital. No, Jess. You don't understand. Mum tried to stand, legs trembling. If people find out what? That Dad is a wife-beater? You don't understand this family. There are things. She hesitated. Your father's reputation, his business. Reputation? I laughed. But nothing was funny. You think reputation matters more than your life? I looked around the house. $800,000 villa in Coral Gables. $50,000 whiskey collection. 85-inch TV. Authentic ivory chess set. All the things Dad bragged about to friends, while the family bathroom medicine cabinet had only expired ibuprofen and Band-Aids, while Mum covered bruises with drugstore concealer. I'd fought Somali warlords, but I'd never felt fury like this. This wasn't battlefield clarity. This was something personal, visceral, like fire burning in my bones. Phone buzzed again. Text from unknown number. Mrs. Morales, this is your neighbour, Jane. I saw Robert leave this morning with a young woman. Are you okay? I heard shouting. Again. Again. The neighbours knew. They heard screaming but chose silence. And I, the daughter, the only one who could protect Mum, was 1,000 miles away. I knelt beside Mum again. Mum, I can't let this continue. You don't understand, Jess. Your father isn't always like this. When he's not stressed. Mum, I took both her hands. In the military, they taught me to recognize abuse patterns. This is textbook domestic violence, and it will escalate. Mum looked at me with frightened eyes. What do you want to do? Honestly, I wanted to find Dad but that wasn't the military way. The military taught strategic thinking, mission planning, overwhelming force applied precisely. I want to stop this. Properly. You can't fight your father. He has lawyers, connections. Mum. I looked straight into her eyes. I'm not planning to fight Dad. I'm planning to expose him. I'd rescued 23 people in international waters. I'd stared down Somali pirates with AK-47s. I'd received direct commendation from the Admiral of the Sixth Fleet. But what I was about to do would be harder than all of that combined. Because this time, I wasn't just fighting for strangers, I was fighting for the person I loved most. Against the person I'd spent 28 years trying to earn love from. I stood up, looking out the window toward the marina where white yachts danced on Miami's blue waters. Somewhere out there, my father was living his dream life on family money, while my mother tried to hide her bruises. But every dream can become a nightmare. And I, the person Dad always called a disappointment, was about to teach him a lesson about consequences. The game changes now. But before I tell you how I was about to shatter my father's perfect life, you need to understand who I became. And why the man who should have loved me most treated me like his biggest failure. When I was 8, I broke my arm climbing the apple tree in our backyard. Left arm, radius bone, clean break in 2. I cried loud enough for the whole neighbourhood to hear. But Dad was in an important meeting, and Mum had to drive me to the ER alone. In the waiting room, I watched another 8-year-old girl crying with a broken leg. Her father held her, singing softly, eyes red with worry. I sat there with my swollen, throbbing arm, waiting for Mum to fill out paperwork. "Where's your daddy?" the nurse asked. "He's busy," Mum replied, the way she would for the next 20 years. When we got home, my arm was in a bright pink cast. I thought Dad would sign it, like other kids' fathers did. Instead, he looked at me with annoyance. "Real girls don't climb trees," he said. "Real girls sit quietly indoors." I was 8 years old, but I understood. I had failed the test of being a real girl. At 16, I was valedictorian of my class, 4.0 GPA, West Point scholarship offer, captain of the soccer team. In my graduation speech, I talked about service and sacrifice, about dedicating your life to something bigger than yourself. Dad sat in the front row, but he didn't clap. When I looked down, he was checking his phone. After the ceremony, all my friends were taking pictures with their families. My father stepped forward, put his hand on my shoulder with an empty smile. "Jessica's going to West Point," he announced to other parents. "I have no idea where she got this crazy notion." Crazy notion. The idea of serving our country was a crazy notion. I felt that pink cast gripping my arm again. 20 years old, and I was still the girl who didn't know her place. But I went anyway. Naval Academy, not West Point. 4 years of discipline, leadership, honour code. 4 years learning to survive in an environment where weakness meant death. I wasn't the smartest, wasn't the most talented, but I was the most stubborn. When other midshipmen quit, I stayed. When they complained about PT, I did an extra 100 push-ups. When they went home weekends, I stayed to study maritime law. Graduation day, I stood in dress whites, brand new shoulder boards gleaming, eyes fixed on my future. My family came. Mum cried with pride. Dad stood straight as a flagpole, but didn't return my salute when I saluted him. "Now Jessica's done playing soldier," he told his friend. "Hopefully she'll settle down, find a good man." Settle down. Like becoming a commissioned officer was just a phase I'd grow out of. I signed up for combat training, surface warfare, medical officer track. My male colleagues thought I was trying too hard. Female colleagues thought I threatened the gender balance, but I didn't care.
I had something they didn't have, something to prove. And prove I did. First deployment, Mediterranean Sea. Anti-piracy operations off Somalia. First 6 months were routine. Patrol routes, escort merchant vessels, standard Navy operations. Month 7, we received a distress call from a container ship. MV Sunshine Cargo, 23 crew members, attacked by Somali pirates 90 nautical miles off Mogadishu. I was junior medical officer on the response team, not supposed to see action, just treat wounded after Marines cleared the deck. But plans never survive contact with the enemy. The helicopter dropped us on the ship at dawn. Blue containers stacked like a maze. Perfect hiding spots for hostiles. Chief Martinez led the team up. I followed with a 40-pound medical kit. Pirates had barricaded in the engine room with 6 hostages. Negotiations failed. Orders came down. Tactical assault. Protocol was clear. Medical personnel stay back. Treat casualties as they come. Gunfire erupted from the forward superstructure. Automatic weapons. Sharp cracks of M4s answering back. Over radio chatter, I heard, "Man down! Corpsman!" Chief Martinez, shrapnel in his neck. Arterial bleeding, unconscious. "Morales!" Lieutenant Kane shouted over gunfire. "Get up here!" This is it. The moment that defines you. I grabbed the trauma kit, low-crawled across deck under covering fire. Bullets sparked off container walls, the smell of cordite thick in the air. Heart rate 140, breathing controlled. Exactly like training. Chief Martinez lay behind cover, blood pooling dark under his head. Carotid artery nicked, pressure dropping fast. Maybe 4 minutes to work with. Hands steady. No shake, no panic. Cut away gear, expose the wound, apply pressure. Direct pressure wasn't enough. Needed deeper intervention. In combat medicine, there are moments when protocol goes out the window and instinct takes over. This was one of them. I opened the trauma kit, pulled hemostatic gauze with bullets whining overhead. I packed the wound, applied pressure bandages, started an IV with one hand while maintaining pressure with the other. "Stay with me, Chief," I whispered. "You're going home." Marines cleared the forward sections. The firefight moved toward the engine room. I dragged Chief to safety, kept pressure on the wound, monitored vitals. He survived, full recovery, but that was just the beginning. Over the next 12 months, we responded to 8 similar incidents. Pirates getting bolder, better armed, more desperate. And I was always there, crawling under fire, treating wounded, bringing people home. Incident in the Gulf of Aden. Rescued 12 Filipino crew members, treated 3 for severe dehydration and heat stroke after they'd been locked in a container for 48 hours. Operation off Yemen. Took shrapnel in my shoulder while treating a wounded Marine. Kept working until medevac arrived. Received the Purple Heart and Navy Cross with V device for valor. By deployment's end, My reputation preceded me. Morales gets people home, they said. You're wounded? You want Morales treating you. 23 people I pulled back from the edge. 23 families who got their loved ones back. 23 reasons why I wore the uniform with pride. Best of all, Admiral Richardson himself pinned the medals on my chest. Outstanding courage under fire, Lieutenant Morales. The Navy needs more officers like you. The Navy needs more officers like you. I finally had something Dad couldn't dismiss. Combat decorations, official recognition, proof of worth from the highest levels of command. I couldn't wait to show him. Home leave, 2 weeks before this deployment ended. I came back to Miami wearing dress blues, chest full of ribbons, Purple Heart, Navy Cross, Combat Action Ribbon, NATO Medal. Set up dinner at the Biltmore Hotel, Dad's favourite. Expensive, impressive, somewhere he liked to show off. I figured public setting, formal attire, maybe he'd finally see. Dad arrived 30 minutes late. Perfectly tailored suit, Rolex gleaming, expensive cologne. He looked like success. Jessica. Handshake, not a hug. His eyes took in the uniform with something like irritation. Still playing dress-up, I see. Playing dress-up. The Navy Cross equals playing dress-up. Dad, I wanted to tell you about deployment. The citation reads, Jessica. He raised his hand. I don't need details. I'm sure you did whatever military people do. Whatever military people do. Like saving 23 lives was just whatever. Dad, I received the Navy Cross. It's the second highest decoration for what? For running around with guns? Real women build homes, Jessica. Real women create life, not take it. Take it? He thought I was some kind of killer. I'm a medical officer. I save lives. You're 28 years old. When will you grow up? Find a husband. Give me grandchildren. Mrs. Gutierrez's daughter just had twins. Mrs. Gutierrez's daughter. So that was the metric of success. The dinner continued like that. He talked business, real estate deals, yacht purchases, new Maserati. Important things, adult things. I sat there, military decorations heavy on my chest, feeling like that 8-year-old with the pink cast. Driving home, I called Chief Martinez. Still in medical recovery, but strong. Chief, weird question. Do you think what we do matters? Kid, you saved my life. You saved 22 others. If that doesn't matter, nothing does. But what if people back home don't get it? What if they think it's just playing dress-up? Long pause. Morales, some people only respect what they understand, and some people only understand things that directly benefit them. Doesn't make our mission less important. Makes it more important. More important, not less. That's when something clicked. I'd spent 28 years trying to earn respect from someone incapable of giving it. Someone who saw military service, sacrifice, courage, honour as an obstacle to his vision of what Jessica should be. His vision. Silent, decorative, dependent. My reality. Strong, capable, independent. No wonder he couldn't recognise me. I'd become everything he feared women could be. And now I'm home, unannounced. Dad's on a yacht with his mistress. Mum's bleeding on the kitchen floor. The pattern finally clear. This man doesn't just dismiss my achievements. He actively harms people weaker than him. Time for education. In the military, they teach escalation of force, verbal warning, show of force, application of force. I tried verbal warnings for 28 years. Show of force comes next. I opened my laptop, started researching. Business license records, property ownership, financial filings. Dad was a successful businessman, but success leaves paper trails. Every yacht rental, every restaurant bill, every jewellery purchase for Amber Collins. Every dollar spent while Mum ate leftovers and hid bruises. Evidence. Chain of custody. Building a case. Chief Martinez was right. Some people only understand things that directly benefit them. Time to teach Dad about consequences. And the benefits of treating family with respect. 2 days after finding Mum bleeding on the kitchen floor, I'd transformed the spare bedroom into a command centre. Laptop running all day, printer working constantly, walls covered with charts and timelines. I wasn't Jessica Morales, the daughter, anymore. I was Lieutenant Morales, executing the most important mission of my life. Mission: gather evidence to prosecute Robert Morales. Target: my own father. In the military, they teach that intelligence gathering must be systematic. You can't act on emotion. You need facts, evidence, an ironclad case. And I would build this case like a professional. First call went to Dr. Hernandez, our family doctor for 15 years. "Jessica, how are you? Your mother mentioned you're back from deployment." Her voice was warm until I explained the purpose of my call. "Doctor, I need Mum's medical records from the past 2 years. Emergency room visits, treatments, prescriptions, everything." Her voice slowed. "Honey, patient confidentiality." Mum signed release forms. I'm faxing them over right now. 20 minutes later, 18 pages of medical records appeared in my email. The pattern was clear as daylight. January 2023, bruised ribs, fell downstairs. March 2023, swollen wrist, kitchen accident. July 2023, mild concussion, slipped in shower. October 2023, broken finger, caught in door. 9 emergency room visits, 9 different accidents, all escalating in severity. Dr. Hernandez had a private note. Patient exhibits classic signs of domestic violence, but refuses to confirm when asked directly. Have documented injuries with photography per protocol. Photography. Visual evidence. Exactly what I needed. Bank statements never lie. Numbers tell stories people try to hide. With power of attorney from Mum, I accessed the joint accounts. Spreadsheets became my weapon of choice, tracking money flow like blood through arteries. Robert's spending pattern told a clear story. Legitimate expenses: mortgage, insurance, utilities, groceries. $8,500 per month. Personal spending with Mum: golf club, restaurants, reasonable luxury. $3,000 per month. But then there were hidden expenses: marina fees, hotels, restaurants for two. $12,000 per month. Most damning, monthly transfers of $2,500 to Amber Collins Marketing Services. Amber Collins wasn't a consultant. She was a 26-year-old mistress receiving a monthly allowance.
Hotel charges showed a pattern. Four Seasons Miami. Same dates as the yacht photos. Always double occupancy. While Mum thought he was in business meetings, credit card bills revealed jewellery. $6,000 diamond bracelet from Tiffany, delivered to an address that wasn't our house. Total, $180,000 per year, spent on the affair while controlling Mum with $500 per week grocery allowance. Financial abuse, clear as crystal. Social media is public domain. And Robert Morales, successful businessman, maintained a professional Instagram with 1,800 followers.
What he didn't realise, tagged photos from others appeared on his timeline.
Amber Collins had tagged him in 52 photos over 6 months. Restaurants, yacht selfies, vacation pics. All time-stamped, geolocated during times Mum thought he was working. Screenshot, save, organise chronologically. Amber's Instagram told a detailed story. Hashtag Miami lifestyle. Hashtag yacht weekend. Hashtag blessed. Hundreds of photos with my father. Most incriminating, video from last week. Robert on the yacht. Champagne toast. Camera panning to show romantic setup. Roses. Silk cushions, sunset background. Audio caught his voice. To my beautiful angel, who makes life worth living. Beautiful angel. While his wife was recovering from the latest kitchen accident. Cross-reference with bank records. Yacht rental $2,200. Champagne $300. Roses $150. Catered dinner $800. Total $34.50. Same day Mum went to the ER for a sprained wrist.
Timeline constructed. Evidence ironclad. Neighbours know more than they admit. Shame keeps them quiet, but official inquiry opens doors. Mrs. Chen, neighbour for 8 years. Oh my God, Jessica. Yes, we hear shouting sometimes. Late nights. Your mother. She's so sweet, but lately very nervous.
Miguel Rodriguez, pool maintenance.
Mr. Robert, he gets angry when Miss Maria talks to me. Tells her go inside house. Not normal, you know.
Carmen Valdez, house cleaner for 4 years.
I see bruises, Miss Jessica. Always excuses. Always jumps when Mr. Robert's car comes home. I want to help, but Miss Maria says keep quiet.
3 witnesses, multiple observations. Pattern of fear and control established. In the military, no one fights alone. Support network is key to mission success. Call to Detective Maria Gonzalez, Miami PD, Domestic Violence Unit. Detective, I'm Lieutenant Jessica Morales, Navy. I need assistance with a domestic violence case. It's family-related.
How family-related?
Suspect is my father. Pause. When and where do you need backup? No questions about conflict of interest. Professional recognition of duty. Within 2 hours, I had connections with victim advocacy groups, safe house resources, legal aid attorneys. Network established. But I needed the final piece. Confrontation with Amber Collins. Starbucks on Collins Avenue, 3 p.m. Wednesday. Amber Collins sat alone with her MacBook and vanilla latte, completely unaware of the storm approaching. Miss Collins? I slid into the opposite chair. I'm Jessica Morales. We need to talk. Recognition flashed. She'd seen family photos. I don't know what you want.
You're receiving $2,500 monthly from Robert Morales, while his wife lives on a grocery budget. Let's start there. Colour drained from her face. He said he was divorced. He lied. I placed evidence on the table. Photos of Mum's bruises, medical records, bank statements.
This is the cost of your relationship.
Long silence. Then tears. I didn't know. He said his ex-wife was crazy, tried to destroy him in the divorce. Classic abuser script. Paint the victim as the villain. Justify the betrayal. Miss Collins, you're not the criminal here, but you witnessed patterns, hotel receipts, yacht dates, expensive gifts, all while his wife suffers abuse. She stared at the evidence, hands shaking. What do you need from me? Truth, timeline of the relationship, and cooperation with the arrest. Decision moment. Long pause. When he gets arrested, will you protect me? He has a bad temper when things don't go his way. Military takes care of witnesses. You'll be safe. Handshake, agreement. Final puzzle piece secured. Driving home, evidence folder thick on the passenger seat. The major decision remained. Private arrest or public exposure. Private, clean, professional. Family privacy maintained.
Public. Maximum impact. Complete humiliation. Community awareness.
I thought about 28 years of dismissal. Playing soldier. Grow up. Real women. I thought about Mum, hiding bruises with concealer for 2 straight years. Decision made. Public exposure. But timing had to be perfect. Venue had to maximize impact. Then I remembered. Morales construction celebration. Public contract signing with the City of Miami. $50 million waterfront development. 400 guests. Miami's business elite. Local news coverage. Perfect stage for public reckoning. Dad? It's Jessica. I heard about the big celebration tomorrow night. Congratulations. Surprise. Jessica, thank you. I didn't expect. You're in Miami? Military leave. I was thinking, maybe it's time we talked. Adult to adult. You always said I need to mature. Think about the future. Long pause. That's very good, Jessica. Yes, come tomorrow. Black tie event, Intercontinental Hotel Ballroom, 7 p.m.
I'll be there. In dress uniform, if that's appropriate.
Of course. Military uniform shows respect. Perfect. Respect indeed. After hanging up, I called Detective Gonzalez. It happens tomorrow night. Public venue, 400 witnesses, full media coverage. Jesus, Morales, you sure? He's had 28 years to treat his daughter properly, and 2 years to stop beating his wife. Time's up. Roger that. We'll position units. I sat in my war room, surrounded by evidence of 2 years of abuse and a lifetime of emotional neglect. Tomorrow night, Miami's social elite would witness what happens when justice finally comes home. And Robert Morales would learn the final lesson from his disappointing daughter. Actions have consequences, every single one. Game time was approaching, and this time, I held all the cards. The Intercontinental Miami Ballroom sparkled under crystal chandeliers. 400 of Miami's business elite mingled with champagne glasses, their voices creating a symphony of success and privilege. Local news cameras positioned strategically around the room captured every moment of what was supposed to be Robert Morales's greatest triumph. I stood at the ballroom entrance in full navy dress blues. White peaked cap, gold shoulder boards gleaming, ribbons aligned perfectly across my chest, Purple Heart, Navy Cross, Combat Action Ribbon, NATO Medal. The uniform that had once meant nothing to my father would tonight mean everything. My hands were steady. Heart rate controlled at 72 beats per minute, exactly what it had been during firefights off Somalia. This was just another mission, the most important one of my life. Detective Gonzalez's voice crackled through my nearly invisible earpiece. Units in position. 2 patrol cars outside. Plainclothes officers at exits.
You sure about this approach, Morales?
I touched the evidence folder tucked inside my dress jacket. Roger that. Target acquired. Mission is a go. Robert stood on the raised platform at the far end of the ballroom, resplendent in his $10,000 tuxedo, silver hair perfectly styled, megawatt smile working the crowd. The mayor shook his hand. City councilmen laughed at his jokes. Camera flashes popped like fireworks. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC's voice boomed through the sound system. "Please welcome Miami's Developer of the Year, Robert Morales, for our contract signing ceremony." Applause thundered through the ballroom. This was his moment, the pinnacle of a career built on the backs of others, including his own family. I began moving through the crowd, my military bearing creating a path as people instinctively stepped aside. Whispers followed in my wake. "Who is she? Navy officer? Those are combat medals." Robert hadn't seen me yet.
He was basking in the spotlight.
Signature pen poised over the $50 million waterfront development contract that would cement his legacy as one of Miami's most successful developers. "This project," he spoke into the microphone, his voice rich with confidence, "represents everything I've worked for. Family, dedication, American values." Family, American values. The words hit like slaps. I reached the front of the crowd, just below the platform. Robert's eyes swept the audience and found me. For a fraction of a second, his composure cracked. Surprise, confusion, then something that looked like fear. But he recovered quickly. That $1 million smile returned. "Ah, and there's my daughter Jessica, just returned from military deployment. Stand up, honey. Let everyone see our family's service to country." 400 pairs of eyes turned to me. Camera lenses swiveled. This was the moment he expected me to play along, to be the dutiful daughter supporting his public image. Instead, I remained silent, motionless, my expression carved from stone. The smile on Robert's face faltered slightly. "Jessica, always so humble about her service. So proud of her. Proud." The word tasted like ash in the air between us. I stepped forward, closer to the platform. Close enough that my voice would carry without a microphone. "Mr. Robert Morales," I said, my military bearing making every word precise, authoritative. You just spoke about family and American values. The ballroom fell silent. Not the respectful quiet of a ceremony, but the electric hush that precedes a storm. Jessica, this isn't the time. Robert started, but I cut him off. When exactly would be the time, sir? When you're not busy celebrating contracts while your wife recovers from the latest kitchen accident. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Champagne glasses paused halfway to lips. News cameras swung toward me with predatory focus. Robert's face went pale, then flushed red. Jessica, you're embarrassing yourself. Perhaps military service has been too stressful. The only embarrassment here, I said, removing the evidence folder from my jacket, is what's in these documents. I opened the folder. Medical records spilled out like confessions. Bank statements fluttered to the floor like dead butterflies. Photographs of my mother's bruises landed face up on the white marble. 18 emergency room visits in 2 years. $180,000 spent on mistresses while controlling his wife's access to grocery money. Multiple witnesses to domestic violence. The silence in the ballroom was deafening. I could hear the whir of news cameras, the soft buzz of overhead lights, the rapid breathing of 400 people witnessing a man's reputation crumble in real time. This is preposterous! Robert's voice cracked like a whip, but there was desperation underneath the anger. She's having some kind of breakdown. Security, remove her. But no security guards moved. Every eye in the room was fixed on the evidence scattered at my feet. Mayor Rodriguez stepped forward, her face grave. She picked up one of the medical photographs, my mother's face, bruised beyond recognition from what the report called falling downstairs. Is this real? She asked, her voice carrying clearly through the room's acoustics. Maria Morales, photographed at Jackson Memorial Hospital, October 15th, 2023, I replied. Military precision making each word cut like glass. Witness, Dr. Elena Hernandez, who documented classic domestic violence patterns over 24 months. Robert lunged toward the microphone. She's lying. My wife is clumsy, accident-prone. This is character assassination from a daughter who resents not getting enough attention. Character assassination. That was rich, coming from a man who'd spent 28 years assassinating my character. Detective Gonzalez. I spoke clearly, knowing my earpiece would transmit. Please bring in witness testimony. The ballroom doors opened. Detective Gonzalez entered, followed by Carmen Valdez, our former housekeeper, and Mrs. Chen, our neighbour. Behind them came the figure that made Robert's face go white as bleached bone. Amber Collins, 26 years old, walking toward the platform with bank statements in her hand and tears streaming down her face. Ladies and gentlemen, Detective Gonzalez announced, her shield visible on her belt. I'm Detective Maria Gonzalez, Miami Police Department Domestic Violence Unit. We have testimony from multiple witnesses regarding ongoing domestic abuse and financial crimes. Robert grabbed the microphone stand like a drowning man grabs driftwood. This is a setup. A vendetta from a disturbed military daughter who can't accept that she's not the centre of attention. The centre of attention. After 28 years of being invisible, Amber stepped forward, her voice shaking but clear. He told me he was divorced. He showed me bank statements showing alimony payments to an ex-wife. I had no idea she was still married still living with him, still being... She broke down, but the damage was done. Carmen Valdez spoke next, her accent thick, but her words precise. I clean house for 5 years. I see bruises. Always. Miss Maria, she jump when Mr. Robert Carr come home. She hide money for grocery and old coffee can, because he count every dollar. Mrs. Chen nodded vigorously. We hear shouting late at night. See ambulance come 3 times. My husband want to call police, but I say it's not our business. We should have called. The crowd was murmuring now, a low rumble of shock and disgust. Phones appeared, recording everything. This wasn't just a fallen hero. This was a monster exposed in high definition. Robert's voice rose to a shout. Where's my wife? Where's Maria? She'll tell you these people are lying. Your wife, I said quietly, and somehow my voice carried better than his shouting, is in a safe house, receiving medical treatment for injuries you inflicted 2 days ago. She's also prepared to testify. I pulled out my phone, opened a video file. My mother's voice, recorded yesterday, filled the ballroom through the sound system. My name is Maria Elena Morales. For 2 years, my husband has beaten me, controlled my money, isolated me from friends. I was afraid to speak because he said no one would believe me. He said I was just a weak woman, and he was a respected businessman. I stayed silent because I thought I deserved it. Her voice broke, then strengthened. But my daughter, Jessica, taught me something. She said silence isn't strength. Speaking truth is strength. And truth is this: Robert Morales is not the man you think he is. The recording ended. The ballroom was silent except for the soft sobbing of several women in the crowd. Robert stood frozen at the microphone, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. 28 years of carefully constructed reputation crumbling in real time. Robert Morales, Detective Gonzalez said, stepping onto the platform. You're under arrest for domestic violence, financial abuse, and fraud. The handcuffs clicked with metallic finality. The sound echoed through the ballroom like gunshots. As the officers led him away, Robert's eyes found mine one last time. All the arrogance was gone. All the dismissal. All the condescension. What remained was a broken man who'd finally met consequences. I gave you everything, he whispered as he passed me. No, I replied, my voice carrying just far enough for him to hear. You gave me nothing. And that taught me everything. The crowd parted as police escorted Robert Morales, Developer of the Year, Pillar of the Community, Domestic Abuser, out of his own celebration and into a patrol car. As the ballroom doors closed behind them, Mayor Rodriguez approached me. She picked up my mother's medical records, studied them quietly, then looked up with tears in her eyes. Lieutenant Morales, she said formally. Then her voice softened. Jessica. Your mother. Is she safe? She's safe. Finally, the mayor nodded. And you? This must have been. It needed to be done. Justice doesn't care about timing or social calendars. She smiled. A real smile, not a political one. No, it doesn't. Thank you for your courage, both in service overseas and here at home. The crowd began to disperse, but many stopped to speak with me. Business partners who'd had suspicions, employees who'd witnessed Robert's temper, community members who'd known something was wrong but hadn't known how to act. Miss Patricia Williams, wife of the police chief, shook my hand. I've been in 3 abusive relationships. Each time I thought I was alone. What you did tonight, it shows other women they don't have to be silent. Dr. James Morrison, no relation to our family despite the name, introduced himself as director of a domestic violence advocacy group. We've been trying to reach victims in high-profile families for years. Your mother's testimony will save lives. As the ballroom emptied, I stood alone among the scattered evidence of my father's crimes. The crystal chandeliers still sparkled. The contract still lay unsigned on the podium. The champagne glasses still held their golden promises. But something fundamental had shifted. Truth had been spoken. Justice had been served. And I, the daughter who was never enough, who would never be enough, had proven that sometimes being enough isn't the point. Sometimes being right is enough. 3 days after the arrest that shattered Miami's social scene, I sat in Detective Gonzalez's office, reviewing the cascade of consequences that followed Robert Morales's very public downfall. The aftermath had been swift and merciless. Your father's arraignment is tomorrow, Detective Gonzalez said, sliding a thick folder across her desk. DA is charging him with aggravated domestic violence, financial abuse, fraud, and witness intimidation. Bail's been set at $500,000. Will he make bail? Hard to say. His assets are frozen, pending investigation. Morales Construction's board voted him out yesterday morning. Stock price dropped 60% in 48 hours. I opened the folder. Photos of Robert in County Jail Orange, head hung low, $1 million smile nowhere to be found. The man who'd once commanded boardrooms now sat in an 8x10 cell, eating meals from plastic trays. The bank records you provided, Gonzalez continued, revealed a pattern going back 5 years. $200,000 annually in hidden expenditures. The IRS is opening their own investigation for tax evasion. $200,000. While my mother counted grocery money in coffee cans. What about Amber Collins? Fully cooperating. Turns out she genuinely believed he was divorced. When she realized the truth, Gonzalez shook her head. She's providing testimony for financial fraud charges. Apparently, he used company funds for their relationship expenses. The phone rang. Gonzalez answered, listened, then smiled. That was the victim advocate. Your mother wants to see you. The domestic violence safe house looked like an ordinary suburban home, but security cameras tracked my arrival. Inside, soft lighting and comfortable furniture created an atmosphere of peace, the opposite of the tension that had defined my childhood home. I found my mother in the sunroom, tending to small potted plants arranged on wooden shelves. Her face, still showing faint yellow traces of healing bruises, looked more peaceful than I'd seen it in years. Mika, she said softly, not turning around. You came. Of course I came, Mum. She set down her watering can and faced me. The fear that had lived in her eyes for so long was gone, replaced by something I hadn't seen since I was a child. Hope. The plants are therapy, she explained, touching a small orchid. Growing something beautiful after everything ugly. How are you feeling? Free. The word came out like a breath she'd been holding for years. Scared sometimes, but free. The counsellors here, they help me understand it wasn't my fault. I sat beside her on a wicker chair. For the first time in decades, we were just mother and daughter. No violence lurking in the shadows. I should have left sooner, she continued. But you understand. In our culture, marriage is sacred. Divorce brings shame to the family. I thought, if I was a better wife, if I was quieter, more supportive. Mum, none of it was your fault. I know that now. Dr. Rodriguez, the therapist here, she explains about the cycle. How he would hurt me, then apologize, bring flowers, promise to change. Then the tension would build again. The cycle of abuse. Textbook pattern that traps millions of women worldwide. What you did at that hotel, my mother said, taking my hands. It saved my life. But more than that, it showed me I was worth saving. Worth saving. Words she'd never believed about herself. The other women here, she continued, they have stories like mine. Rich husbands, poor husbands, young, old, doesn't matter. The pattern is always the same. But seeing them recover, start new lives, it gives me hope. What do you want to do now? I want to help. Dr. Rodriguez says I could train as a peer counsellor, help other women who are where I was. She smiled, and it transformed her face. Your father always said I was useless. Maybe I can prove him wrong about that, too. My phone hadn't stopped ringing since the arrest. Local news stations, newspapers, even national media wanting interviews about the Navy hero who exposed her abusive father. But more meaningful were the personal calls. Carmen Valdez called to thank me. Miss Jessica, my sister, she see the news. She finally leave her husband who hit her. She say if Mrs. Maria can be brave, she can be brave too. Mrs. Chen stopped by with homemade soup. My daughter in Seattle, she call crying. She say she understand now why I stay with her father even when he angry. She getting help too. Dr. Morrison from the Domestic Violence Centre reported a 300% increase in calls to their hotline. Your mother's recorded testimony played on every news station. Women are hearing her voice and finding their own. The story had gone viral on social media. #JusticeForMaria, trending nationwide. Comments poured in from women sharing their own stories of abuse, of family members who looked the other way, of finding courage to speak truth. But the most powerful response came from an unexpected source. 3 days after Robert's arrest, I received a call from Margaret Patterson, CEO of Patterson Development Group, Robert's biggest competitor. Lieutenant Morales, I'd like to meet with you if possible. We met at her downtown office, a sleek tower overlooking Biscayne Bay. Your father, she said without preamble, was a bastard to work with. bullying subcontractors, intimidating employees, cutting corners. But none of us spoke up because he delivered results. And now? Now we're asking ourselves why we enabled him. Why we looked the other way when his employees quit after nervous breakdowns. Why we laughed when he called his wife the little woman at industry events. She pulled out a folder. We're launching the Maria Morales Initiative, a fund for domestic violence survivors seeking job training and housing assistance, starting with a $5 million commitment. $5 million in my mother's name. We can't undo decades of looking the other way, Patterson continued, but we can ensure women in our industry have resources to leave dangerous situations. Your mother's courage inspired this. I hope she'll consider being our spokesperson. 2 weeks later, I sat in circuit court as Robert Morales pled guilty to all charges. The man who entered that courtroom bore little resemblance to the confident developer who'd commanded Miami's business scene. Orange jumpsuit, shackled hands, hollow eyes. He looked every bit the defeated criminal he'd become. Judge Miranda Rodriguez, no relation to my mother despite the name, reviewed the plea agreement with clinical precision. Mr. Morales, you're pleading guilty to aggravated domestic violence, financial fraud, tax evasion, and witness intimidation. Do you understand that this plea carries a mandatory minimum of 8 years in state prison? Yes, Your Honor. His voice was barely audible. Gone was the booming confidence that had once filled boardrooms. The court has reviewed victim impact statements from your wife, employees, and community members. The pattern of abuse described spans decades. This isn't a momentary lapse in judgment. This is systematic criminal behavior. Judge Rodriguez looked directly at Robert. You held positions of trust and authority. You were a husband, father, employer, community leader. You betrayed every one of those roles for personal gratification. She turned to my mother, who sat in the front row, wearing her first new dress in years. Mrs. Morales, would you like to address the court? My mother stood slowly. For a moment she looked fragile, uncertain. Then her spine straightened and I saw echoes of the strong woman she'd been before fear took hold. Your Honor, she began, her voice growing stronger with each word. I lived in terror for years. I made excuses for broken bones, for bruises, for being afraid in my own home. I thought it was normal. I thought I deserved it. Robert stared at his shackled hands, unable to meet her eyes. But my daughter taught me something. She said truth isn't comfortable, but it's necessary. So here's my truth. Robert Morales is a dangerous man who needs to be stopped from hurting others. She paused, gathering strength. I don't want revenge. I want other women to know they don't have to live in fear, that there are people who will believe them, who will help them, who will stand up for them when they can't stand up for themselves. The courtroom was silent, except for the soft crying of several spectators. Thank you, Mrs. Morales, Judge Rodriguez said gently. Your courage in speaking truth has undoubtedly saved lives. She turned back to Robert. The court sentences you to 12 years in state prison, with possibility of parole after 8 years. You will also pay restitution of $500,000 to the victims of your financial crimes, and you are permanently banned from holding corporate officer positions in the state of Florida. The gavel fell with finality. As deputies led Robert away, he turned once toward the gallery. His eyes found mine briefly, a last moment of recognition between father and daughter. I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no sadness. Just the quiet peace that comes when justice finally arrives. That evening I stood on the balcony of my hotel room, looking out over Miami's glittering skyline. The city looked the same, but everything had changed. My phone rang. Commander Williams from my unit. "Jessica, I've been following the news. How are you holding up?" "Fine, ma'am."
Ready to return to duty.
"Actually, that's why I'm calling. There's a position opening up. Liaison Officer for Military Family Services. Domestic violence prevention, family counselling resources, support systems for military spouses. Interested? Military Family Services. Using my experience to help others in similar situations." "Very interested, Mom." "Good. Oh, and Jessica, what you did took real courage. Both your service overseas and your service to family. The Navy is proud of you." After hanging up, I called my mother at the safe house. "How are you doing, Mum?" "Good, Mika. Really good. I start peer counsellor training next week. And I found a small apartment near the centre. My own place. My own name on the lease. Her own place. Freedom in 4 walls and a door that locked from the inside. I'm proud of you, Mum. I'm proud of you too, Jessica. Not because you're a war hero or because you stopped your father. I'm proud because you chose love over hate. You could have destroyed him with anger, but instead you chose justice. That's real strength. Real strength. Not the kind that comes from putting others down, but the kind that lifts people up. Mum, I love you. I love you too, Mika. Finally, we're both free. Free. The word my father had tried to take away from both of us. As I watched the sun set over Miami, I thought about family. Not the one defined by blood and shared trauma, but the one defined by choice and shared values. The Navy family that had my back without question. The community that rallied around my mother. The strangers who became allies in the fight for justice. That was real family. That was worth fighting for. Tomorrow I would return to duty, but tonight I stood free, under stars that looked brighter than they had in years, knowing that sometimes the best way to honour your family is to save them from themselves, even when that family doesn't want to be saved. 6 months later, I stood in my new office at Naval Station Norfolk, walls lined with certificates from domestic violence training programs I'd developed. The phone rang constantly. Military spouses seeking help. Commanders requesting guidance. Advocates sharing success stories. My mother had found her calling too. The scared woman who once counted grocery money in coffee cans now managed $1 million foundation, helping survivors rebuild their lives. She'd testified before Congress about domestic violence in affluent families, her voice steady and strong. I never thought I'd be grateful for the worst years of my life, she told me during our weekly call. But they taught me empathy I couldn't have learned any other way. Robert was serving his sentence in state prison, scheduled for parole review in 7 years. I didn't visit him. Some bridges, once burned, aren't meant to be rebuilt. Detective Gonzalez had been promoted to head Miami's domestic violence unit. Amber Collins completed her degree and now worked as a victim advocate. Carmen Valdez started a support group for immigrant women afraid to report abuse. The ripple effects continued spreading. For 28 years, I believed family meant earning love through achievement, accepting criticism as caring, staying silent to keep peace. I was wrong about all of it. Real family doesn't require you to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. Real family celebrates your strengths instead of exploiting your weaknesses. Real family shows up during your worst moments, not just your best ones. I found my real family in Navy squadrons, where nobody questioned my worth. In hospital rooms, where I saved lives without needing permission. In a community of survivors who understood that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action despite fear. Blood creates relatives, but choice creates family. The people who stand with you during storms matter more than those who share your sunshine and your DNA. The strongest families aren't built on obligation or tradition. They're built on mutual respect, honest communication, and the revolutionary idea that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity. Family isn't who shares your blood. Family is who shows up when you bleed. If this story resonates with you, you're not alone. Share it with someone who needs to hear that speaking truth isn't betrayal. It's love. Because sometimes the greatest act of family loyalty is refusing to enable someone's worst behavior.